All right, guys, you know what I find oddly funny yet convenient at the same time? We're going to talk about Elizabeth Warren today, somebody that I don't think I've paid enough attention to. She has built her career and her name blasting these Wall Street crooks, predatory lenders, predatory banks, you name it, and has pushed her consumer watchdog to shut down scams. But today, I want to expose a contradiction that'll make you wonder if she's really practicing what she preaches. So stick with me here, and I will show you how a single $1,000 donation ties Warren to a nonprofit accused of the same dirty tricks that she claims to fight. Because, as it turns out, even watchdogs roll over when the intruder brings some snacks. At least that's the way that it goes. Also, two things before I get into this. Number one, yes, I've had too much coffee if you are wondering. If I am hyper, that's the reason why. Number two, I have to give a shout out to Jess Machado. She has done a deep dive investigation into this. I decided to dig a little bit deeper myself. I am going to leave a link to her Substack below so you could read her article on this. Now, let me set the stage here because I think context is key. Warren didn't just trip into politics. She built her career and her reputation defending regular people against these financial predators. Back in the late 2000s, she was a Harvard professor here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts calling out these predatory lenders, which, as you might know, these companies attributed to what later became the housing crisis back in 07/08, okay? Because they were giving out money to basically anybody, and they had these let's say, auxiliary appraisers that were just appraising everything at value, okay? They were working in cahoots, basically. And she said, verbatim, that it blew up because it was based on a business model designed to cheat people, which isn't necessarily wrong. And I could do an entire video about what happened back then. We're still seeing the effects of it, by the way. But let's continue the story here. What ended up happening next is that Obama picked her to launch the Consumer Financial Protections Bureau back in 2010. And at the time, of course, it seemed like a big win for the average consumer. I'm not advocating for the CFPB here. I could do an entire video on that too. So the CFPB, this was her project, and it was to be used as a federal weapon to crack down on these abusive loans, hidden fees, and basically exploiting people of lower income the most. That's what this was designed to do. So her CFPB has gone after banks, payday lenders, and even sketchy for-profit colleges with absolutely no mercy. In 2020, she pushed to make the executives of these, let's say, predatory colleges personally liable, saying that they can't dodge responsibility while simultaneously wrecking lives. Back in 2018, she slammed bank deregulation, I should say a deregulation bill, as a punch to the gut to American consumers. And she ended up warning people that this would let shady mortgages slip through the cracks. I would say throughout her career, she's been consistent. Therefore, you'd expect her campaign and that same level of consistency in regards to cash to be squeaky clean as well, with no ties to anyone even sniffing around those practices. But that's not the case. That's what we're talking about today, and that's where things get messy. And speaking of getting messy, or absolutely hosed for that matter, living in Massachusetts is like playing Minesweeper blindfolded between the brutal taxes, the pothole obstacle courses, and traffic that moves slower than Beacon Hill's budget reform. It's a miracle that anybody gets through the day in one piece. But if you don't, if life actually slams into you, you don't want your future in the hands of some guy taking these Zoom depositions from a booth at Dunkin' Donuts with a folding chair and free Wi-Fi. That's where today's sponsor, Morgan & Morgan, comes in. They are the biggest injury law firm in America with over 1,000 attorneys in all 50 states. They've recovered over $25 billion from more than 500,000 clients. For example, they took a $3,500 insult offer and turned it into $12 million in Florida. They turned a $500,000 lowball offer into $29 million in Pennsylvania, and they even got $20 million in a case that started with exactly zero on the table. Now, if you've been injured, you could go to forthepeople.com/Mike Urban to start your claim. It's free unless they win. And in a state where even breathing feels like it comes with a surcharge, you don't want a discount lawyer when you are fighting for what you are owed. Now back to the video. Enter Elise Cherry and BlueHub Capital. Cherry is the CEO of BlueHub, which is a nonprofit in Massachusetts pitched as a community hero for helping families dodge foreclosures. Sounds great, right? Here's what they do. Let me give you some context here. They end up buying distressed homes directly from banks. Then what they do is they resell them back to the original owner with affordable, remember, affordable terms. But if you dig a little bit deeper, that's where things go absolutely sideways. Homeowners have been suing this company and accuse BlueHub of predatory tactics through their shared appreciation mortgages, or SAMs we'll use for short. These deals let BlueHub claim up to 75% of a home's future value after it increases when it's sold or there's like some levels of a refinance, okay? So you could look at it this way. What starts as a lifeline can end up turning into a massive payout for them, not for you, with interest rates allegedly blowing past state usury limits. Here's a real world example. This was, I believe, in the Boston Globe. So Annie McKnight, she's a 72-year-old woman from Boston. She can't downsize or leave her house to her kids because BlueHub has a 47% stake eating into her equity. They're basically wolves in sheep's clothing. And this is something we know, at least on this channel, quite a bit about here in the Commonwealth. So BlueHub ended up pushing back on this claim, okay? Saying that they've helped over 550 families stay housed. And every complaint has been cleared, okay? And they have helped, if you want to use that word, they have helped these families. So what they tried to do is they try to paint themselves as these progressive do-gooders. But guess what? They are in a lawsuit right now with our attorney general. And we're going to get more into that in a few seconds here, okay? Now, here's where the twist comes in, all right? This is what ties Warren to this mess. This is what ties Warren to this story. Back in 2017, Elise Cherry ended up donating $1,000 to Warren's Senate reelection campaign. It's not a lot of money, but it isn't about the money. It's about the circumstances. And I think that this is quite symbolic. It doesn't stop there, okay? By 2019, Cherry ended up hosting this huge, fancy brunch fundraiser for Warren's presidential run, and she ended up rallying these, mega big donors while Warren's out here swearing off super PACs and high roller events. So why take cash from someone running an outfit later slammed with these predatory vibes, right? Here's some context. In 2017, BlueHub, I think, on paper at least, was still seen as the good guy nonprofit, tied to the democratic causes like affordable housing. And this is stuff that the left is all about, especially people like Warren. And also, Cherry is a big name in the LGBTQ advocacy space. She's donated to a lot of other mass Democrats, okay? Mara Healey, for example, Martha Coakley, who else? Michelle Wu, Ron Mariano, obviously Elizabeth Warren, and Andrea Campbell. And again, Andrea Campbell is currently suing them. Whether that goes anywhere, guys, that'll be a completely other story. We're going to have to follow up on this one. So, for Warren, this probably looked like some slam dunk, okay? Not a red flag, at least when she was receiving this money and getting these big mega donors from Cherry. But fast forward, and this is where the hypocrisy is alive and well today, because Warren has ripped into these private equity firms claiming that they use these big piles of borrowed money to gentrify our neighborhoods and kill our jobs. So what's BlueHub's model then? To me, it looks like it's cut from the same cloth. They're buying cheap, reselling with strings attached, then they cash in big on your home's appreciation. Case in point, in 2012, this is a good one. In 2012, BlueHub ended up buying a foreclosed property in Everett. I can't remember the address. They bought it for like 125 grand. They ended up flipping that the same day, same exact day, for $171,000. Then they pocketed $314,500 when they sold it to developers. That is a 400% return. Even the homeowner's attorney called this deceptive, with shoddy disclosures, and they were even pressured, I believe, by BlueHub to sign contracts without any kind of legal counsel. So Warren's CFPB is still in the fight against predatory lenders, like she tweeted after the 2024 Supreme Court win. So why is there no noise on BlueHub? These guys end up skating in this nonprofit gray zone with mission-driven statements on paper, but profit-making in practice on the back end. Warren has pushed for reforms on student loans, for private equity, and has even co-sponsored bills to curb shady housing practices. So why has she not spoken up on BlueHub? What about BlueHub? It has been absolute silence. This isn't a one-off either, by the way, guys, because Warren has pledged in 2019 to ditch big donors, mostly sticking to grassroots. But guess what? Somehow, someway, Cherry, she must have ended up slipping through the cracks, or her whole ideological practices of generating money for her campaigns must have changed. I don't know what changed, but something changed. Maybe this was some kind of like oversight since like this big scandal hit post-donation, but because the lawsuits happened in 2020. But in Massachusetts, where trust in government is already on some kind of life support, I think the optics matter. Therefore, this puts a spotlight on these like blind spots in progressive fundraising. Like, do good intentions shield bad actors? Let me hit like some historical parallel for some more context here. Think about the subprime crisis. So Warren ended up dissecting how banks targeted minorities with low entry rates that later exploded, wiping out a ton of wealth. It was crazy. But BlueHub and those SAMs, those mortgages, it's the exact same trap, guys. It's an easy in with a catastrophic out. She even co-authored the book, The Two Income Trap, warning about families getting squeezed. So taking cash from a player in that game, like, I just don't understand how these things add up. Maybe it's like this. I feel like these nonprofits have this like existential or this like theoretical halo put over them that they're completely ethical. Even when CEOs like Cherry, they end up pulling in over $1 million in comp back in 2022. That's wild for a nonprofit, by the way, guys. Okay. A nonprofit. Okay. It's crazy to me. But guess what? The saga continues, because now BlueHub's side hustle, which is called, and you could look this up, 1% for America, is already on my radar. Let me just say that much, because they're providing 1% interest loans for citizenship fees pitched at immigrants in immigration shelters. Yes, that will be a future video. And look, I'm all for capitalism, but not when someone is like cosplaying Robin Hood, but ends up keeping all the gold for themselves. And look, I'm all for consumer protection as well. But the CFPB, there's a lot of back-end stuff in regards to the CFPB. And I don't want to keep you guys bored. This is a long video already. I keep on talking here. But the fact remains, it's like Warren accepts money. All these politicians, they all accepted money from this like potentially crooked nonprofit, at least most recently crooked, and they don't call any of these people out. All these people are too busy suing the Trump administration and doing all these other things, but they won't even claim that a bad actor is in their own backyard that they've taken money from. And the reason they're not going to do that is because guess what? It'll make all of them look bad, right? It's going to make all of them look bad. And that's why I wanted to make this video, because it's absolute hypocrisy. And that's one thing, as you guys know, that I hate the most. It's like, do as I say, don't do as I do. And they get away with it, right? But I'm not going to sit here and be silent about these things, right? So that's why I wanted to tie this in here. And if they had any levels of like credibility as politicians, like they would come out and say, look, yes, we accepted money from these companies. At the time, we didn't realize that, it would morph into a potential or allegedly predatory nonprofit or something like that, right? They should do something. But it's still, in my opinion, ridiculous. And the hypocrisy is still there. Anyway, thanks for the video, guys. By the way, I just want to let you know, I read all of your comments. I may not comment on or reply to all of your comments because there's just too many, but I read them all. And I do get a lot of insight from a lot of your comments, and that helps me, put together future videos. So I really appreciate the support, guys. And again, thanks again. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.